Hello and welcome back. I'm Joe, and this is a test and tutorial for Workers and Resources Soviet Republic. About 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago, I asked you something. How do you deliver goods in Workers and Resources? And 89% of you gave the wrong answer. You want to use lines for final delivery and distribution offices for the rest, not the other way around, and not distribution offices all the way. I will show you why what you're doing is wrong and what you can do to make it right. Let's talk about the setup real quick. These are 6 identical cities. I have 3 bunched up, 3 for the line setup and 3 for the distribution setup. The line setup has everything over here, plus the hospital and the fire stations have 2 vehicles each, plus they have their own fuel being bought in. Then we have one central shopping center, right there, one, right here, one, and here. Same thing over here. The distances are almost identical. They're not exactly the same. So if you want to be nitpicky there you go. But they are almost identical, so I wouldn't worry about them too much. On this side, we have a fuel station with 12 tons of fuel in it. On this side, in the same spot, we have a distribution office with also 12 tons of fuel in it. That will be important. What do we have for trucks? Well, we have a total of, don't look at this, one is already moving. There are a total of 5 covered holes and 1 refrigerated truck. That is the same here. 5 covered holes and 1 refrigerated truck. Perfect. Nothing is set up yet because this is also a tutorial, so I want to show you something. Over here, I have 3 trucks set up to deliver food because it's the high volume item to just 1 each. So each truck just has 1 cargo station, goes from there to there. Select the next truck. Maybe it's this one. Nope. Let's select this truck. There we go. He's just going to go from the cargo station to here, and the other food truck is going to go from the cargo station to right here. And that is set up so that food, which is the highest volume turnover, is not going to be forgotten in any of the locations. So they are 3 dedicated trucks, which is why I have 3 trucks over here to match this. The way you want to set that up is make sure that you have wait until loaded checked at your source, which in this case is this guy. Wait until loaded, I set directly to food, and you just click on them if you want to change them. And that's important. And then you want to unload and also wait until unloaded. Very important. Once you have that, that's your line set up. If you have never set up a line, this is how you do it. I left the refrigerated truck like this. And for electronics and for clothing and for meat, I'm doing it a little different. I'm not going to do it direct. I'm going to do it a different way. But I want to show that you have control over what you want to do if you use lines. So what I'm going to do is send you to source first, wait until loaded, very important. Go to the first station, don't wait until unloaded. Go to the next station, make sure that's set to unload. Next station, make sure the same thing, unloading, and then I will just have you go back or double back from where you came from. Why am I doing that? Because there's a high chance that after the first station you have some meat left. After the second station you probably have some meat left. After the third station you may have some meat left. Then you go here, which is kind of on your way back. Not exactly, that could be a better way. But just tell them, hey, drop off something here and drop off something here. We could skip the second to last stop and just go straight back to our first station, but this is what I want to do. And the clothing and electronics setup is exactly the same way. So that is all good. That's all good to go. These guys are all set to load 100% of something at their stations, and that's what we want. The distribution office itself, you do it a little different. I want to, select our source. And from the source, just pick out what you really want. You don't have to do this if that's all you have in the warehouse at the time. So I want you to load all the things that I want. We have the correct vehicles available there. And then I want to have you drop off whatever you can here. Drop off whatever you can here, and it's going to default to load, so make sure you set it the right way, and I want you to unload right here. Just to be fair, I want you to load 100% of whatever you can, because you're competing against the line, and the line is going to fill it to whatever it can until it can't fill it anymore. So we're going to set it to 100%. You don't have to do this. In the grand scheme of things, this number doesn't matter for the thing that I'm doing right now, because it's not the first trip that matters. It's the following trips that we're going to look at. Okay, now everything is set up. We are good to go. So let's get this started. 3, 2, 1, go. We have trucks moving already. Perfect. We have a truck over here Every single truck is going to go to the fuel station and refuel. That's not a problem. Every single truck over here is going to go straight to the cargo station. And this is the first thing that I want you to see and want you to understand. Trucks from the distribution office, if you set them up to deliver final deliveries, will not use 100% load of anything. Just not going to happen. I don't know if you just saw that, but this truck dropped off something here, and after he dropped it off, the distribution office told him another task. So this truck, which is currently highlighted down here, did not go directly back to the distribution office. It just went back to the cargo station because there is more to do. So the distribution office instructs the drivers on the fly. And that's great. That's great. It's a little more effective and a little more efficient. But again, it's only transporting 62% to the next destination, which is exactly what this destination is able to hold, about 4 tons. There's a rounding error in there somewhere, but it's about 4 tons, and that's what's going to be dropped off here. Sounds great, right? Well, not really, because that means for the meat truck, which is this guy, it's always only going to load 1 ton to go to any of the locations. So the distribution office is really only using 1/6 of the capacity of this guy, which means you need 6 trucks to do the same thing as 1 truck over here. What is happening on this side? On this side, you will always have trucks transporting 100% of whatever you told them to transport. If I look at the electronic lines or any of the other lines, looks like this is on the way back. They will always load 100%, and then they will drive around a little bit with a partial load potentially, but you can also just use 1 dedicated truck per cargo. And that's fine, you can do that. But for clothing and for electronics, you just don't have that much of a consumption. Same for meat. You have a much smaller consumption range, and that's usually not going to happen. And also, this truck is going to continually have electronics in here after the first drop-off. Why? This is still pretty much full. It barely used 0.1 tons. It's going to do the same thing over, well, no electronics have made it out here yet, but they will get out there pretty soon, I'm sure. Same thing here, we have electronics and no clothing yet. After the first couple rounds, these will fill up. So let's look at something. On the line setup, what do we have here? Shopping center, that's the name, yeah. Line setup shopping centers, how are we doing right now? Well, we have all the food that we need because those are dedicated trucks. But not everything else yet. How are we doing on a distribution office setup? The first one looks pretty good, the second one looks kind of good, and the third one looks mediocre. So, what am I seeing here right now? If you compare them, everything on the line setup is pretty much full right now, besides this guy. I'm going to assume this will happen pretty soon, but right now it's not full. Everything on the distribution office setup is not full. But there's something there, okay? There's something there. Just keep that in mind. What does that translate to? That translates to nobody is in the distribution office at any time. They're just going to drive around, but they keep your stuff full. Is that a good thing? This number is dwindling down. You see that? Just a truck just made it there in time. That's good, but the truck did not fill the whole storage. It only filled part of the storage. I'm just looking at these numbers. It's really all I care about. But it's not terrible. They definitely do the job. There's currently meat missing here. There's meat about to be missing down here. So that is not good. But meat is not the most important thing in the world. So you could argue that's not that important. We have meat over here at a much higher percentage than we have in the distribution office setup. But there's no meat here because the distribution office will only send out the truck to pick up 1 ton and bring it somewhere. Well, this one only delivered, looks like 0.7, didn't even deliver a full ton. Because, and I want to show you that, what happens is this guy is telling, or is being told, hey, get 13% of something and bring it to Sejov Road Station. It's down here. Because this one wasn't empty all the way when the command was issued, and sometimes these get updated. Yep, it just got updated to 14%, so it's going to bring a full ton. Great. By the time it gets there, you have this whole time in between here now where people don't get anything. That's not good. We didn't have that on the direct line setup. So that's the first comparison. The distribution office keeps you somewhat full, but you will have low... you will have times where you have low cargo and low capacities and low availability. Now, you can say you can counteract that with a warehouse. Absolutely you can. But the second thing that I will tell you cannot counteract with a warehouse. The main difference that I'm expecting to see, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see, is this one is currently at 7.89 tons of fuel. This guy already has 1 ton of fuel more, and this was just the time that I was talking, which is about 5 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes in that time. So the distribution office is using a lot more fuel than the direct line. It's less efficient just because of that, because fuel is expensive. Every time you use a ton of fuel, it's like thousands of dollars, or if you're later in the game, it's millions of dollars. That's not good. And the distribution office will just continually do this. You will not have trucks be parked in here because you have these workers just go in here and buy stuff. Why do they buy stuff? Well, because they need stuff. And every time they buy stuff, the distribution office just says, okay, load up a little bit. Don't load up everything. Load up a little bit. And that uses a lot of fuel. Could you care less about fuel? Sure you can. But why would you? I mean, sell your fuel to make money. If you don't care about fuel, why do you play with fuel on at all, right? So, yeah, no. But these are all working, and this is just the first comparison. Distribution offices totally work and are much easier to set up for what you want to do, but they're much less efficient. And I think if you get past this level of distribution, which usually, let's be honest, I only have 4 tasks assigned, and they can barely keep up with that with the vehicles that I have that are just the same number as vehicles as the line setup has. You could add more vehicles here, and that will keep this fuller, but once you assign 20 office tasks to this distribution office, you will not keep up with them 100%. So that's the first thing. Now I will show you how to do this correctly. Okay. I'm almost ready, and I just want to show you the setup. I deleted all cargo inside every single truck, plus I emptied out the warehouses on every single shopping center, plus I emptied out the warehouse itself and the meat storage. Nothing is in here. Then I added a distribution office over here, just a small one, that will be fine, and a cargo station over here just for simplicity, because I can't have trucks wait here until loaded and then use a distribution office to deliver something somewhere. You could send them directly to the warehouse, but I prefer a cargo station. Only reason for that. Okay, to get this set up, we need something. Covered hole, we need 1 for food, 1 for clothing, and 1 for electronics. You can do this with 1 truck, 100%, especially if your distance is this short, but for this test, I'm not going to do that. Then we need 1 for refrigeration. Good. Now assign what we need to do. 1 we have to pick up from here. This is a border post or border patrol or border, whatever you want to say it, call it. And you don't have to do it this way, but this will allow you to directly import from the border, and that's how you should do that if you don't want to use auto-build with a distribution office. You can just pretend that this is a simple warehouse that you have somewhere else in your republic, and that warehouse is somewhere where you bring all your goods to. So there has to be a lot of stuff in there. That's important. But that's what we're going to get. Then I want you to unload right here, whatever you can. Plus, I want you to unload at the meat storage, because that's where we need stuff. And then this is important. I'm just going to set this down to the lowest number, 10%, which will fill up this number. Once this number is 10%, it's full. Same thing with here. Once this number is 10%, it's full. So keep that in mind. But this is how you want to set this up. Why is this how you want to set it up? I will show you. Let's run this. I will show you. This truck right now is going to take 100% of something. So it's like a line, and the distribution office sent it out because that's what we wanted. The refrigerated truck, or all of these trucks, are going to drop off 100% of something. We have a truck here. What are you waiting on? You're waiting on food. The first truck brings in food, a full truckload of food. Wonderful. So this truck is going to leave. Now this truck already, well, not yet. Hold on, just wait for it. The arrows are still right here. Oh, the truck is getting some fuel. That's fine. We just bought them. Once he's done with fuel, yep, that's what I expected. The arrows went up here. The distribution offices issued new commands because we don't currently have a full load of food in here and we want more. So told it, hey, get more. And that's a full truckload again. That is perfect. That's exactly what we want. If we let this run just for a little while. All right, in the beginning, these will always move 100% of cargo all the time. So I'm not impressed by that. What I will be impressed by is now that all the trucks are actually moving and have at least moved once, we actually have a truck sitting here and waiting. He's not doing anything because there are 10% of meat inside the warehouse. That's 17%. That's confusing. I don't know what this is doing because I told it to do 10%. But that's the amount of meat that's there, and this truck is currently not running. That's perfect. Over here, this is still running exactly like before. Nothing is waiting there. Nobody's parking. And that is bad. What is this truck doing? You picked up another load of food, and we have some food in here now, but not a lot still. We got some more electronics. Electronics is really not that important. But at this point, we are getting close to the loading limit that we had before. And life is pretty good. We will get another load of food in here, and now we will see trucks just parking here and not doing anything. What's this guy doing? You will pick up more food. That's okay, because this truck is bringing in the food that we actually want in this situation, and that's perfect. It's going to drop it off, and this truck is just going to take it, and there we go. But this is what I'm talking about. The distribution office right now is not needlessly running trucks around because it's not letting them fill all the way. 100% of meat, so how did that happen? This truck just picked up 100% of something from this cargo station. So a full truckload is missing here. So all the distribution office is trying to do is load this truck up again, give it a full truckload. And that is all you want this to do. That is, the whole goal here is that your distribution office should distribute from warehouse to warehouse, not from warehouse to final delivery. If you do that, you will not waste fuel, you will not have problems, and you will not create a lot of traffic to do something. You see this? How calm they're sitting around? I'm assuming, yep, that was just a truck. This truck picked up a full load of clothing. And now the distribution office just wants to replenish that. And that's perfect. What is that truck doing? You're doing food, a full load of food. And this is going to continually do this. It's always going to run at 100%. That is like a direct line control that we have over here, but in a distribution office that can do a lot more. And if you have trucks waiting in your distribution office, that means they are available for other tasks, and you can actually use the 20 office tasks that you can assign to them. Right now, this is probably pretty busy, and the 3 trucks that I have for the 3 cities that I have is probably a pretty good ratio. But especially on the bigger ones, if you add more trucks to them, you're going to have no problem doing whatever you need to do there. And as you can see, there's not a lot of truck traffic here, and I'm not going to bet because I haven't looked at them, but all the shopping centers have what they need in this setup. Now, is this setup expensive? Sure, the initial cost is pretty high, but your running costs are super low if you set it up this way. The running costs on this one are still moving. Let's see what the fuel situation is. Yeah, you pretty much used up all of your fuel where, well, over here I added 28 tons. So, yeah, that's not a fair comparison anymore, but this is what you want to see. You want to have your distribution office not drive all the time. You want the distribution trucks to just wait. So that's all I had. This is how you should use a distribution office. Use it from warehouse to warehouse. Don't use it for final deliveries. If you have huge quantities that you need to move, maybe skip the distribution office and use a train, if that just makes more sense. Trains can be pretty big and carry a lot of stuff, so utilize them wisely. But then the train can, for example, move things from a centralized warehouse to another centralized warehouse, and the distribution office can take it from the centralized warehouse to a localized location, and the designated line can then take the goods from the localized location to the final place where you want it. And you can set up the lines however you want. What I'm curious about right now is how much meat do you have left? Yes, this one is definitely not efficient. So for meat, maybe it's better if you just set it up to, well, 1 truck per setup. What do we have here? Electronics is very similar. You want to move just 100% of electronics. What is this guy? This one's the food guy. The food guy probably works nice. So often you can set up a direct line, just like point to point instead of point to point to point to point to point to point to point. That depends on how you're set up, how things are moving together, and how they are set up. But yeah, this is all good. Everything's kind of running. I like what this is doing. The warehouse is full enough with all the things that we need, so that is excellent, and things are just moving. Now this is a little problem that bonus, just warning bonus. If you set it up the way I have here, where the warehouse is set to 10%, and this warehouse does not limit the amount, then you are essentially inviting overcrowding of something. You don't need this much electronics. You don't need this many clothing. You need more food. So what you should do is set your percentages so that food gets a priority. Now these trucks will fill up food, and everything else stays below that limit. So you don't run into this problem where right now these cars, these trucks are just waiting here because there's no food available. Now, this guy will have 100% of food on board, and that's great. But that may happen if you use a distribution office with the percentages like I have. Just be aware of that. It's a pretty easy thing to remedy, like you just saw. You just limit your amounts, and if you still are above the percentage in your warehouse, you can always discard a little bit of whatever you don't need, and then life should be good. But at this point, this will run forever. The meat and electronic trucks are not necessary that way, but it's fine. Another bonus that I will show you how you can make this more effective than it is right now. Give me a truck that's useful. This one, yes. Instead of only picking up clothing at the source, you can just tell this guy, hey, instead of just picking up that, I want you to pick up clothing and electronics. And then just in the advanced setup, you can say only this resource, and then forbid this resource. And I want you to always take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8% of clothing, and then a few percent of electronics. 1, 2. That's fine, that's all we need. And then we just need one truck to actually move around, because we can take the other truck, this truck, out of commission, and everything will be fine. And that makes you a little more efficient, and you can only do that with lines, because a distribution office will not carry multiple cargo types at once. Yep, that's all I have. Where's the guy? That's the guy that's leaving. I want to see... I want you to be aware that this is going to work. So right now it has more clothes on board than it's allowed, and that's fine. It will just go here, and instead of picking up clothing and electronics, it will pick up just a little bit of electronics just until it's full. And that's okay. We don't need a lot. A problem with this is if you don't use a full truckload to move things around, you will remove less than a truckload from here. And the distribution office will try to refill that non-full truckload for you. It's not the end of the world by any means, but it's not ideal. It will just result in more truck runs from the distribution center that are not 100% full. So keep that in mind when you do your things. Sometimes it's better for certain cargo or certain products to have another line set up directly from whatever your source is to the distribution. In this case, electronics is probably a good one that you only want to buy when you're actually out of them. So just use a truck directly here to unload what you have, and don't use the distribution center. Meat, I would say, is probably fine the way it is, because you should always have the truck pick up a full load here. And if you don't, you just set up another line again. Use a distribution office only if you can guarantee that you have 100% loaded and unloaded all the time. If you can't guarantee that, the distribution office is very, very ineffective. Where should you use a distribution office? From moving from one warehouse to another. Where should you use lines? Direct delivery. Where should you use trains? Where a distribution office cannot keep up with the cargo that you want to move. Okay, that was a lot of talk. I did not mean to make this long. I hope it helps someone. I hope it creates some thinking of what you can do with distribution offices from here on out. And I really appreciate everyone that stops by and enjoys these. Maybe come by the Discord, and if you have some questions or some suggestions for other tests or tutorials, please leave them there. Would appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for coming. Really appreciate you, and have a good one. Bye.